So Thursday's election could well be challenging for the Lib Dems, shall we call it that? But they're quite a test for the Tories too, because the last time these seats were fought 4 years ago, the Conservatives were flying high in opposition and Labour was plummeting in government. But local elections are also a time for smaller parties like the Greens and UKIP to flourish if they can. Adam Fleming's been to England's south coast to find out how the two smaller parties plan to offer disillusioned voters a new place to go.
There aren't any local elections happening in Brighton, but there is a festival of music-themed sand sculptures, and it's a good place to look at the tactics of one of the parties hoping to make an impact this week, the Greens. The Greens have been digging in here for years, and it's worked. In 2010, this place gave them their first ever MP, and in 2011, they became the largest party on the council. That means they've got a concrete record they can build on elsewhere, and it's not just things like these new cycle lanes.
The bedroom tax has been brought in by central government, and we've said that we would not evict people should they come to the point where they're facing eviction simply because they can't pay the bedroom tax. And so that kind of thing becomes a flagship for what other Green parties and indeed what other parties elsewhere in the country might look at doing.
And of course the government would call it a change to the benefit system rather than a bedroom tax.
Out in the leafier parts of Sussex, like the village of West Chiltington, it's less green, more true blue. But UKIP are on the march. The last time these seats in West Sussex were fought 4 years ago, UKIP fielded candidates in fewer than half of the wards. This time round, though, there's a UKIP candidate in every single one. Even though they came second in the Eastleigh by-election this year, UKIP still hasn't broken through at the local level, and so they're hoping that voters will follow in the footsteps of District Councillor Roger Arthur, who defected from the Tories.
What became obvious in talking to members, people who would tramp the streets, these are the foot soldiers, they were fading, they were disappearing, hemorrhaging, and they were doing that because they were totally disillusioned with things like gay marriage, with the Police and Crime Commissioner, with wind farms, and those are all things that resonated with me.
Nationally, the party is fielding 3 times as many candidates as they did back in 2009. But that's brought some admin problems. Here they missed the deadline for nominating a candidate. They forgot to sample the postal votes, which all parties are entitled to do to gauge their support. And a candidate in neighbouring East Sussex was suspended for comments about the Holocaust. Here on the south coast, UKIP and the Greens aren't fighting over the same political territory, but they are competing for the votes of people who look at the larger parties and think, none of the above.
So, votes up for grabs. Who can win them? MP and former Green Party leader Caroline Lucas and the Deputy Leader of UKIP, Paul Nuttall, join me to go head-to-head. Welcome to you both up on our screens there. Paul Nuttall, let me come to you first because you're in the news this morning. Your party seems to be in complete disarray as you head to these local elections. Even one of your own leaders says getting your candidates together is like herding cats and they need to get off their hobby horses.
Well, I don't think we're in disarray. I think that's a bit unfair, to be perfectly honest with you. We're a growing party, we're a young party, and there are some teething problems along the way. But what I will say, Andrew, is that this has been a concerted attack by the establishment. It's been a part of a dirty tricks campaign by the Conservative Party over the past 24 hours, and I think it's rather sad, actually. And I think it's things like this which turn people off politics, and it ensures that voter turnout goes down. And we have it up in, but we have it up.
Why do you know? What evidence is there that you're a victim of Tory dirty tricks?
Well, because we have the 100-page dossier that the Conservative Party Central Office handed to a national newspaper on Friday. Basically, if the Conservatives have got people in Central Office doing these kind of dirty tricks, going through the private lives of our candidates, going back 2 years on social media, it's sad, it's dirty, we're not going to respond.
All right. Caroline Lucas, they're on the front page. They're the new insurgents. Are they in danger of overshadowing you?
Well, they're certainly doing very well at the moment, and I wouldn't mind some of the wealthy backing that they have from big business. If we had that, we could certainly be doing a very, very good job as well. So I'm rather envious of that. But I think that what we are doing is making...
What big businesses are backing UKIP? What big businesses?
Well, they have a lot of wealthy backers. The Green Party sadly doesn't, but we are making very steady progress. Well, I don't have the names, but I've been reading about the many thousands, hundreds of thousands that go into the UKIP coffers, and you only need to look around the country to see the number of billboards they've been able to afford. And so all I'm saying is that when you have more money, you can make a bigger impact. But having said that, we're making steady progress. We're hoping to build on the strong position that we already have in places like Oxfordshire and Suffolk and Norfolk, winning our first seats, we hope, in places like Essex and Cornwall. So we've got about 140 councillors on principal authorities now. We're hoping to increase that number. And certainly when we get the chance to explain our policies on the doorsteps, people like what they hear and they vote for more of them.
Paul Nuttall, your candidates are coming under some scrutiny and not all of them are surviving that. Is there a danger that your policies will, when they get the same scrutiny, that they ain't going to survive either because they don't add up?
Well, quite frankly, I'm happy for people to look at our policies and look at things on principle. What I'm not happy about is for people to start delving into the backgrounds and the lives of people who are just local people. This isn't a general election. This isn't a European election. It's a local election. These are local people putting their heads above the parapet. And if the Conservative Party and the Labour Party are going to try to delve into their pasts, and all they can find is a problem with 0.5% of our candidates, I think they've found a problem with 6 out of 1,700.
Neo-fascist past or neo-fascist sympathies, shouldn't we know that?
But not all of them have got neo-fascist past.
I didn't say all. We just want to know the ones that do.
Well, actually, look, we are the only political party in Britain that has it written into its constitution that if you've been a member of a far-right organisation, you can never be a member of UKIP. And the difference between ourselves and the Labour Party is this. You know, when we find out people are members of the BNP or have been members of the BNP, we kick them out. There are 2 Labour Party councillors out there who we know are ex-BNP members who the Labour Party have had elected. In fact, one of them was an ex-BNP councillor. So, look, we're not going to take any lessons on anybody to fight the far right.
All right, Caroline, look, isn't the problem is that there's a time for everything? And at least in the short to medium term, your time has come and gone. Greenery was fashionable. The 2 main parties were tripping over themselves to emulate you. Now we're in a seemingly never-ending recession. Jobs are scarce. Living standards are squeezed. But whereas you're a skeptic as ever, UKIP is the coming force. You're in decline.
Well, it's a funny time for you to say that when it's just a year after we've won our first council. It's just 2 years after we've got our first MP. Of course, UKIP doesn't have any MPs. And our message is certainly, yes, that the environment has to be something at the top of the agenda. We need to be investing in clean energy, not just because of the environmental reasons, but because it would be one of the fastest way to generate lots of jobs. But also, as you heard on that clip just there, we are the ones who are fighting things like the bedroom tax. We are the ones who are fighting this onslaught of attacks on poorer people, which is why, for example, here in Brighton and Hove, we will make a pledge that we will not evict people. Excuse me, we will not evict people from their homes just because of bedroom tax. We are the ones who are trying to implement a living wage.
But don't you have to be left-wing to vote Green? I mean, all your policies are to the left of Labour, so if you're not left-wing, you shouldn't vote Green.
Well, first of all, it's not very hard to be the left of Labour right now because they've moved so far to the centre.
But you get my point.
I get your point, but I just think that left and right isn't a very helpful terminology anymore. Right now, you've got Labour on security issues that are to the right of Ken Clarke, for example. So let's just actually look at the policies. And our message is that if you care about making sure that we have a fairer society, a cleaner environment, more jobs, more strong local economies, the way to do that is to vote Green.
All right. I assume you're going to start vetting your general election candidates after what's happened. And tell me, what will be success for you on Thursday? What would you regard as a successful performance?
Well, we just don't know. I mean, things are up in the air at the moment. Politics, I've never seen politics so fluid in my lifetime. And what we do know is that we're putting on over 100 members a day at the moment. Membership is around 27,000 at the moment, and we're around 17% in the polls. So I think all bets are off.
17?
I'm not going to make...
Well, you've picked the best poll, haven't you?
Well, look, opinion polls are constantly putting us in the early...
So you can't give us any yardstick to judge you by on how well you'll do, or badly?
I'm not going to predict anything because I'm not going to try to predict how the election will vote. What I will say is that we will do very well and our vote share will be up significantly.
All right. Caroline Lucas, what councils will you control or be prominent in after Thursday?
Well, we're certainly hoping to, as I say, get our first seats in places like Essex and Cornwall. We're hoping to build on what we've already got in places like Oxfordshire and Suffolk and Norfolk. But can I just say, you know, when Paul Nuttall's been defending the background of his candidates, I think people should be rather more worried about what some of their policies are. You know, they've got an MEP who says that any sane businessman shouldn't be employing women of childbearing years because they'd have to pay maternity pay. The UKIP doesn't seem to like that. They have a culture spokesperson who says that gay adoption is child abuse. You know, they have a flat tax,
Caroline,
which means that poor people are going to be paying more percentage-wise than rich people in terms of their tax. So
all right, I'll give. For fairness, Paul, I'll give you the final 20 seconds.
Look, I mean, if people want to go out and vote for us, they should look at our policies. You know, we want to give local we want to give local referendums to local people. If you don't want your sports centre to close, or you don't want that wind farm built on your doorstep, we will trust the people. And look, if you want to vote for the Greens, tell you what, go out, because if you vote for the Greens, the lights will go out in Britain.
Okay, well, on that uncontroversial claim, we'll leave it there. I thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.